You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. Chapter 28. Shi-En re-establishes himself at Mengzhou. Wusong while drunk strikes Jiang, the door god. Elder brother, please be seated, said Shi-En, and I will tell you all the details of my grievances. Sir, please select the more important part, and tell me that at once without any attempt at literary skill, said Wusong. In my youth I had a teacher who trained me so well that I got the nickname in the Mengzhou district of the golden-eyed tiger cub. Just outside the east gate of this town there is a marketplace called Kuaihua Forest. The merchants there all come from Shandong and Hebei provinces. At that spot there are over 100 inns and about 30 gambling dens, besides many money-changing shops. Previously I relied upon my athletic skill and opened an inn there where I employed about 80 criminals as assistants and supplied all the gambling dens, shops, and inns with meat and wine. Moreover, all the prostitutes who came to that place had to see me first, and I controlled their affairs. I made plenty of money, and every month my income was about 300 taels of silver. Recently a drill instructor named Zhang came here, with a man named Jiang Zhong from East Luzhou. The latter is a tall fellow, over 6 feet high, and because of this, people give him the nickname Jiang the door god. He is quite skilled with lance and cudgel, and also at hand combat. He used to boast that no man is his equal in those matters, that for 3 years he has established himself with no rivalry, and that no one throughout the empire can contend with him. He once fought with me over the Kuaihua forest and gave me such a beating that I was confined to my bed for 2 months. When you arrived here I had my head bandaged and my arm in a sling, and even now I have not quite recovered. I was waiting until I could find a man who would fight him, because he has the soldiers from drill instructor Zhang who would easily repulse any attack that I could make. I am extremely annoyed because I cannot avenge myself. I have heard that you are a great hero, and if I could get you to help me against this boastful fellow, and get my hatred satisfied, I would be contented even on my death. I was afraid that after your hard journey you would not be in good health, so I gave instructions that you were to be fed and treated well. I would wait until you recover your full strength, and then we can discuss the matter. I did not expect that my servant would have broached the matter so soon, but as he has told you, I cannot conceal the real situation from you. How many heads and arms has this Jiang the door god? Asked Wusong laughingly. Of course, replied Shi-En, he has only 1 head and 2 arms. How could he have more? Wusong laughed again and said, I thought that perhaps he had 3 heads and 6 arms, like Neza, son of Li Jing, but as he is only an ordinary man why should I be afraid of him? 71. As I have no particular skill I cannot oppose him successfully, said Shi-En. I do not wish to boast, but I am always confident in my own skill to fight the strong but evil men of the empire. Now this being the case why should I remain here? I will go straightway without waiting for another drink. You come with me, and see how I crush that beast. I will forfeit my life if I happen to kill him with my fist. Elder brother, please wait a bit, said Shi-En, until my father arrives. If he approves of our plan you can go. We must not be reckless in this matter. We had better send a man tomorrow to inquire whether Jiang the door god is at home, and if he is there then we can go the following day, and if he is not there then of course we shall have to wait. If we went there without preparation it would only scare him out of his cover, and he would be on his guard hereafter. Wusong was anxious to go and said, Sir, do you think he would try to hit me if I went there? Is this a man's job? Let us go at once and not wait for any tomorrow. If we are decided then we must go at once, and not be afraid of any preparation he may make. Shi-En could not induce him to alter his mind, and just as he had given up the idea, the warden came from behind a screen close to where they were sitting, and said, Hero, I have been eavesdropping for some time. Today I am very fortunate in meeting such a hero. My son is as enlightened as beholding the sun blazing forth from a cloudy sky. I request you to come with me to an inner room, where we can have a chat for a short time. They accordingly adjourned to the inner room, where the warden asked Wusong to be seated, but the latter declined as he was a criminal and dared not be seated in the presence of an official. "Do not talk like that," replied the warden. "Hero, my stupid son has been extremely fortunate in meeting you, so why should you be so polite?" Wusong begged to be excused, and then sat down, but asked why Shiren should not also sit down. "My father is sitting with you, please do not worry about me." "If you remain standing I shall not feel comfortable," said Wusong. "Hero," said the old warden, "as you take things like this I will ask my son to be seated, seeing that there is no other person present." The servant brought in wine, food, and fruit, and the old man personally offered a cup of wine to Wusong, and said, "Hero, who would not pay respect to such a brave man as you? Previously my son was engaged in some business at the Kiowa forest, not for coveting wealth and profits, but to improve the prospects of the town, and add something to the atmosphere there. It was unexpected that such a man as Jeong the Door God, relying solely on his brutal strength, could have taken the trade from him. This injury and wrong would never be avenged without such a hero and righteous warrior as you. I hope that you will not forsake my son, and if you will pledge me by drinking this cupful of wine, my son will give you 4 kowtows and respect you as his elder brother. I am not skillful in arms, so how dare I receive your son's respects? If I should faint he would ruin my chances of old age." He however drank the wine, and Shiren kowtowed to him 4 times. Wusong hurriedly returned the respects, and made a sign of their brotherhood. That day Wusong was very happy, and so drunk that he had to be led to his room by a servant. The next day the old official spoke to his son, "Shiren, yesterday Wusong got quite intoxicated, so how can we ask him to start on that errand? We had better get a man to tell him that Jeong the Door God is away from home just now, and that he had better wait for a day or 2. So Shiren went himself to Wusong, and spoke to that effect. He said they might start off the following day. "Tomorrow will do just as well," said Wusong. "But I have to keep my anger for 1 day." So after they had had breakfast they went together for a stroll in front of the hall. They discussed matters relating to military drill, fencing, and fighting. At noon they had their meal together, and Shiren noticed that Wusong was liable to get drunk again before the day was out, so he served few cups of wine. After lunch they both retired to their own quarters. 2 servants brought hot water for Wusong to have a bath. Wusong asked them, "How is it that at lunch there was such a lot of food and so little wine?" "We dare not deceive you," replied the servants. "This morning the old warden and his son were talking about you. They noticed that you had drunk a lot of wine, and they were afraid that if you had plenty of wine today it might delay the business they have in view for you. Therefore they did not offer you much wine. Tomorrow they will certainly ask you to undertake that affair." "It means that if I get drunk the matter will be spoiled?" "That is what they thought," replied the servant. That night Wusong awaited the daybreak with impatience. As soon as it was daylight he got up, and after a wash, put on a turban with a wand swastika decoration, a coat of yellow color with a waist belt of red silk, hempen shoes, with puttees folded up to the knees. He told the servant to bring him a plaster, which he put on his face to cover the branded mark there indicating that he was a criminal. Shiren soon came, and invited him to have breakfast with them. After the meal Shiren told him that there was a horse standing at a trough at the back, ready for him to ride. "My feet are not small," said Wusong, "so why should I ride? There is one matter however that I should like you to attend to." "Elder brother, speak plainly, as there is nothing that I would not do for you." "When you go with me outside the town I want you to give me a don't pass 1 without 3. "What is that?" asked Shiren. "I do not understand you." Wusong laughed and replied, "I will tell you. When you want me to fight Jeong the Door God, you will invite me to drink 3 cups of wine at each inn we pass by on our way. If I do not get 3 cups of wine then I shall not be able to go any further. That is the meaning of don't pass 1 without 3. Shiren said, "From here to the Kiowa forest is about 5 li, and on the way there are about 12 inns. So if you have 3 cups at each inn that will be 36 cups of wine before we get there. You will get drunk, and that will make you unable to succeed in the matter." Wusong laughed and said, "Are you afraid that I will get drunk, and then not be able to do the work? But if I get no wine I shall be unable to act. If I have only a little wine I cannot do much business, if I get only half I can do only half, but if I get a full quantity I can exert all my strength and skill and do anything. If I get drunk I have great courage. If I had not been drunk how could I have killed the tiger on Jingyang Ridge? When I fight with Jiang the door god, I must be drunk, and then I shall be able to exert my power to the full." "I did not know that you were like this," said Shiren. "We have plenty of good wine here, but I was afraid that if you get drunk, you would not be able to attend to business. Therefore last night I did not offer you, my elder brother, much wine. But as things are as you say, then I will tell 2 servants to get a good supply of wine and eatables, and take them ahead so that you can partake of them stage by stage on our journey." "That is just my idea," said Wusong, "and it will encourage me in fighting against Jiang the door god. If I had no wine how could I exert all my skill? Now let me give him a good beating today, so that many people will have a loud cheer." So Shiren prepared a lot of wine and food, and also plenty of cash, and sent 2 servants with them in advance. His father also secretly selected about 20 stout men to form a rear guard in case of need. Shiren started off with Wusong, and when they were about 300 paces from the east gate of Mengzhou they saw an inn at the side of the road. There they found the 2 servants, who spread the food and wine on a table. Shiren invited Wusong to sit down and partake of the feast. "I do not want small cups," said Wusong. "Bring me 3 big bowls." The servants brought 3 large cups and filled them with wine. Wusong without any ceremony drank the wine, and immediately got up. The servants hurriedly packed up the things, and went off again ahead of Wusong. Wusong laughed, and said that he now felt much better in his stomach. They started off again. It was then the month of July, and the weather was very hot, with refreshing breezes. They loosened their coats. They had not gone a third of a li when they came to a few houses on the roadside, and there among some trees was another inn. Upon coming closer they saw that it was a small inn which sold homemade wine. Shiren stopped and asked, "This is only a very small inn, shall we stop here?" "It will do. I will drink only 3 cups of wine," said Wusong. "If I cannot get 3 cups of wine we cannot go on." They entered the inn, and the servants again spread the food and wine on the table. Wusong again drank 3 cups of wine. The servants packed up the things, and went on ahead. The 2 men resumed their journey, but they had not gone a li before they came to another inn. There again Wusong drank 3 large cups of wine. We need not recite how many times they went through this process of drinking wine, but after about 10 inns Shiren saw to his surprise that Wusong was by no means drunk. Wusong at last asked how far they were from the Kuaihua forest village. Shiren replied that it was in the forest which they could now see in the distance. Wusong asked Shiren to wait for him in some other place as he would go himself and find his man. Shiren agreed to this, but he asked Wusong not to treat his opponent too lightly. "Never mind," said Wusong. "Let these 2 servants go with me, and show me the way. If we come to any more inns however, I will still stop and drink wine." Shiren instructed the servants accordingly, and he then departed. In the next li Wusong drank about 10 cups of wine. It was getting near noon, and the day was very hot with only a little cooling breeze. Wusong was beginning to feel the effect of the wine, and he unloosened his clothes. He was not quite drunk, but pretended to be intoxicated and staggered along. When they reached the forest the servants pointed out the inn belonging to Jiang the door god, which was at a crossroad. Wusong told the servants to hide themselves some distance away, and that they were only to come for him when he had given Jiang a good beating. He then entered the forest by the back entrance. He came across a very big man, dressed in a white silk gown, with a fly whisk in his hand. He was seated in a chair in the shade of an ash tree. Wusong exaggerated his stumbling gait, but did not omit to steal glances at the man whom he thought must be Jiang the door god. Wusong however continued on his way, and he had not gone more than about 50 strides when he came to the crossroad, where there was an inn with a long pole sticking out from the eaves flying a cloth flag bearing 4 characters meaning, "Delectable Snuggery." As he came to the front he saw a green varnished railing, with 2 flags on which were golden characters, reading, "When drunk the universe seems big. In the pot there is plenty of time." On the one hand inside the railing was a stall with meat, and a large chopping block, with knives, choppers, etc. On the other side was a stall with bread on it, and a steam stove. Further inside were 3 big jars arranged in a line half sunk into the ground, and half full of wine. In the center of the room there was a counter with a young woman sitting behind it. She was Jiang the door god's concubine, and had previously been a sing-song girl. Looking askance at the girl, Wusong entered the room, and sat down on a chair just opposite to the counter. He placed both hands on the table, and deliberately stared at the girl. She turned her head away. Wusong saw that there were about 7 waiters in the inn. He tapped the table and called out, "Where is the proprietor of this establishment?" A waiter came forward and asked Wusong how much wine he wanted. "I want 4 cups of wine," replied Wusong, "just to see what it tastes like." The waiter went to the counter, and got the wine from the girl, and placed it in a pan of hot water over a fire to warm. When quite warm he served it to Wusong, who smelt at it, shook his head and said, "Bad. Bad. Bad. Bring some better stuff." The waiter thought that Wusong was drunk, and he went to the counter again, and whispered to the girl, "Please change this wine for him." The girl changed the wine for a better quality, and the waiter warmed it at the fire as before. When he served it, Wusong tasted it, and said, "This is also bad. Change it at once, and I will let you off this time." The waiter smothered his rising anger, and went to the counter, and said to the girl, "Please change this wine again, and don't be captious with him. He is evidently drunk, and is in a quarrelsome mood." The girl changed it for a still better quality, and the waiter heated it on the fire as before. He served it to Wusong, who drank it, and said that it was much better. He then asked the waiter what was the name of his master. When Wusong heard that it was Jiang, he asked why it was not Li. The girl, hearing this, called out, "Where did this man get drunk, and comes here to try and make trouble?" The waiter remarked, "He is evidently a yokel from some other village, and he is just farting, not saying anything important." "What do you say?" asked Wusong. The waiter replied, "We are just talking between ourselves. Guest, take no notice, and just drink your wine." "Waiter, tell that girl at the counter to come here and drink wine with me." "Don't be absurd," said the waiter. "She is the wife of the proprietor." "What does it matter if she is?" replied Wusong. "It is not a serious thing if she drinks wine with me." "You are dead," yelled the girl. "You are a dead man." Instantly she pushed open the wicket in the counter, and came forward. Wusong jumped up, stripped off his upper garments, and tied them round his waist. Throwing a bowl of wine on the floor, he stepped towards the girl, and seized hold of her. His grip was so forceful that she could not move. One hand was round her waist, and the other hand stripped the ornaments off her head, and dashed them to pieces on the ground. He then grasped her hair, lifted her over the counter, and dropped her in one of the wine kangs. There was a great splash of wine, and it was really pitiable to see the girl in such a position. There were several waiters who now rushed to attack Wusong. But Wusong was in no hurry. As they came up he quietly seized them, and dropped them one by one into the wine jars. 2 of them he knocked down with his foot or fist. Those in the jars could not get out, and the 2 he had knocked down could not get up. They were all in a mess. One servant had however run away, and Wusong knew that he was going to report the affair to Jiang the door god, so he went after him. He thought if he met him on the way it would only be an opportunity for people to watch the fun, and enjoy the sport. The servant told Jiang the door god, who was startled, and jumped up knocking over the chair. He threw down his fly whisk and hurried off. He soon met Wusong at a place where the road was quite wide. Jiang had been indulging in women and wine so that he was not strong, and was startled at this unexpectedness. He saw that Wusong was approaching like a tiger, and began to wonder how he should deal with him. He noticed that the latter appeared to be drunk, so he decided upon a sudden attack. The movements of both were very rapid. Wusong first shook both fists at Jiang, but stepped quickly to one side. Jiang angrily sprang forward, but Wusong whizzed round and kicked Jiang in the crotch. Jiang clasped both hands to his crotch and stooped down. Wusong kicked again, and striking Jiang on the forehead, knocked him backwards. Taking a step forward, Wusong planted his foot on Jiang's breast, and then stooped down to hit him in the face with both his great fists. Wusong's methods of using his fists and feet is called the jeweled ring swing and the Mandarin duck kick, and in both of these he was quite an expert. Jiang, still lying on the ground, pleaded for mercy. Wusong replied that if he wanted to save his life he must agree to do 3 things. Jiang asked to be forgiven and said that instead of 3 Wusong could make 300 demands, and all would be agreed to. Disguise is useful when one meets a bully who will disdain reason. The hair is cut, the eyebrows trimmed. When death demands a quick conclusion. We will now relate what were the terms that Wusong laid down. Footnote 71. Neza, a Taoist deity born of mortal parents.